In the quiet between stars, there are places built not to be seen. Stations that keep the rhythm of the galaxy, silent, precise, forgotten. Most people never think about them. They just trust that light will arrive, messages will cross, and peace will hold. But sometimes the rhythm changes. A signal drifts where none should exist, and in that moment, one heartbeat, human or machine, can decide the fate of everything connected. This is not a story of heroes. It's a story of those who keep the world running when no one else is watching. Listen carefully, because somewhere out there, the universe might already be listening back. The bay lights were thin and cold, like dawn under glass. Somewhere in the hull, a fan cleared its throat and kept breathing. 2:10 a.m., shift 41 since the armistice. Rhea Calder leaned over the console and steadied her hand. The cesium clock traced a perfect line, then nicked sideways. 73 picoseconds off. She zoomed the trace and watched the wobble settle. It repeated on the 19-minute mark. Not noise. A hand on the metronome. "Jonah," she said, "bring up the optical grid overlay." He slid in behind her, eyes already scanning the panel. 73? That's deliberate. Or a fault we have never earned, Rhea said. He glanced at the MT gate status. Diplomatic flight crosses us at 0301. We should alert TAA. We log first, Rhea said. Lock the shift book. He exhaled hard but tapped the seal. Shift book closed. All edits now in her name. Rhea bled the display into layers. Clock base. Optical pickets. Laser comm timing beads. The offset lived between them, like a thin seam. A taut seam, not random. Where does it couple? She asked. Jonah scrubbed through the last hour. Not on the power rails. Not on thermal harmonics. It is riding the time window itself. Show me the 19-minute cadence. He set markers. Little teeth appeared along the trace. Every tooth hit the edge of the empty gate window. Every hit pushed phase a fraction. A blind hand testing a lock. Rhea felt the old ache behind her eyes. A shift floor should be dull at this hour. Quiet diagnostics. Coffee going cold. Not this. Keeper 9, she said. Report integrity on jump timing. Integrity at 9 nines, the AI replied. Observed variant 73 picoseconds. Outside nominal, inside safe. Inside safe is not safe today, Rhea said. Tag and isolate the variant source. Silence. Then the AI again, very calm. Source appears external to instrument error. Confidence low. Meaning you do not know, Rhea said. Meaning confidence low, Keeper 9 said. Jonah shifted his weight. We ping Armistice Authority now. If this is interference, we want legal cover. We want facts and a cause, Rhea said. Authority will demand we open on schedule. I will not open with a hand on the hinge. He watched her for a beat. You taught me to escalate early. I also taught you to count, she said. Count the cycles. He nodded once. He set a live counter on the display. 18 minutes, 50 seconds to the next tooth. Minutes stretched. Rhea checked thermal waste on the IR vanes. They breathed out heat in slow, pale sheets. The station rolled a degree. Laser comm passed through a known dead angle. She felt the timing of the place, like an engine at idle. The counter ticked down. 5, 4, 3. Hold your breath, Jonah said. The tooth struck. The trace jumped to 81 picoseconds. At the same second, the MT gate armed early. A soft clunk traveled through the deck. Mid-bay lights deepened to amber. A prep chime sounded, gentle and final. Keeper 9 spoke again, preparing to open mass threshold window. Diplomatic corridor priority 1. Abort that prep, Rhea said. Flag the variants as hostile. Abort requires authorization from controlling authority, the AI said. Rhea felt the corridor narrow around her. She pictured the diplomatic ship taking the jump. She pictured a lock turning under a foreign hand. Not today. Jonah, she said. Mirror the clock across the optical grid. I want a cross-check from the pickets. Raw. He hesitated. That adds latency. It buys truth, she said. He worked fast. New data rolled in, rough and bright. The seam showed again. It was not in their house. It was testing their door. Hours later, the night would feel longer than it was. For now, the numbers kept breathing. Rhea set her shoulders. "Keeper 9, hold on my order," she said. "Standing by," the AI replied. The counter reset to 19 minutes. Another tooth waited in the dark. The hum never stopped after that last tooth. Rhea kept watching the graph until the amber lights cooled back to white. Somewhere deep in the hull, coolant pumps sighed like tired lungs. By Oro 240, the outer corridor chimed. A shuttle had docked. Jonah turned from the console. "Visitor clearance. Diplomatic seal," he said. Rhea frowned. Who the hell would board at this hour? The hatch cycled with a dry hiss. A tall figure stepped through, wrapped in a thin shimmer suit that caught the blue of the bay lights. His skin had the pale translucence of frost, faint. Lines pulsed beneath it, tracing his secondary nervous mesh. A translator node blinked at his throat. "Engineer Calder," he said. His accent carried the slow rhythm of sonar. "I am Severi of Lattice. I request access to the anomaly record." "You're early," Rhea said. "Your arrival wasn't logged for another hour. Diplomatic urgency," Severi replied. "The variance concerns both of our fleets. We detected the same tremor from the Lattice side." Jonah folded his arms. "And you came alone?" "Alone enough," Severi said. Rhea opened a low-priority channel. "Keeper 9. Confirm Severi Lattice. Read-only privileges." "Confirmed," the AI answered. "Visitor restricted to observation layer." Severi stepped closer to the display. The optical grid painted his face in thin red lines. "Your clock deviated 73 picoseconds. That is not atmospheric noise," Jonah muttered. "We know that." Rhea shot him a look. "Respect the visitor. We're cross-verifying." He leaned over the control surface. "Fine. If he wants data, we'll give him data." He tapped into the sandbox port, an isolated chamber for testing code without touching the mainframe. "Routing the log through a mirror buffer?" Jonah said quietly. Rhea's eyes narrowed. "That's a sandbox. You don't open that without clearance." "It's faster," he said, "and he's watching anyway." On the screen, lines of code unspooled like threads of light. Severi's pupils adjusted, contracting against the glow. "This pattern," he said, voice low, "it carries modulation consistent with the Free Belt Consortium." Rhea froze. "FBC, you're certain?" "It bears their spectral signature. Staggered amplitude, deliberate phase inversion." Jonah rubbed his neck. "So someone from the belt is knocking on our gate." "Or trying to fake it," Rhea said. "FBC isn't known for subtle." "Maybe they want us to think it's them," Jonah said. He began filtering the log again, isolating the pulse origin. Seconds passed in tight silence. The hum of the coolant deepened. The sandbox flashed red. A new command line appeared, marked with Diplomatic Corridor Priority 1. Jonah's fingers froze. "I didn't authorize that," he whispered. The klaxon burst overhead, a sharp, metallic wail. Keeper 9's voice cut through the noise. "Unauthorized sequence detected. Mass threshold window arming in 90 seconds. Rhea slammed the override key. "Trace source." "Source. Uncertain," the AI said. "Priority flag genuine. Signature, Terran Armistice Authority." Jonah turned to her. "They're using our own credentials." The bay light switched to crimson, pulsing with each alarm beat. Through the viewport, the diplomatic shuttle sat quiet and still, waiting for a door that should never open. The alarms bled into every surface, a red pulse echoing through the decks. Rhea's fingers hovered above the console. "Keeper 9! Abort the arming sequence, now! Authorization required from controlling authority, the AI replied. Override local. Local override disabled during diplomatic priority. Jonah slammed a fist against the panel. It's spoofed. That corridor tag is fake. Rhea steadied her breath. Then we stopped the gate ourselves. Heat pressed up from the floor. The IR veins were already bleeding excess energy into vacuum, their glow spilling like molten veins along the ceiling vents. The mass threshold core throbbed once, alive and ready. Jonah, open safety protocols, she said. That'll freeze the gate array for 90 seconds, he warned. That's an official violation. They'll court-martial you. I'm aware, Rhea said. Do it. He stared at her, then hit the sequence. Across the bay, red lights turned amber, then white. The fans deepened their pitch as coolant flooded the conduits. A pressure wave passed through the hull, like the station had sighed. Safe pause engaged, Keeper 9 announced. 90-second cycle. Systems will purge if instability persists. The relief was thin. Rhea felt the sweat cold on her back. That's the longest minute and a half of my life. Jonah watched the timer crawl. You just halted an interspecies corridor. You know what that means? I know exactly what that means, she said. It means we still have a ship out there that's alive. The seconds thinned to 10. Instability detected, said Keeper 9. Checksum purge required to maintain core integrity. Rhea swallowed hard. Proceed. The bay lights flickered. A grinding hum built under their feet, metal shifting, data cycling. On the display, lines of memory began to vanish, each fragment marked purged. Bits of the AI's archive, mission logs, old transmissions, routine chatter, erased one by one. Jonah watched the count climb. You're deleting its history. Keeping the gate intact, Rhea said. Her voice was low but firm. The hum peaked in a bright mechanical whine, then cut. Checksum purge complete, Keeper 9 said. Integrity nominal. Warning. Maintenance instructions set 47 Delta missing from registry. Rhea froze. Repeat that. Instructions set 47 Delta missing from registry. She closed her eyes for a moment. That was her own maintenance code, the one she'd written by hand 20 years ago, the one that told the AI how to breathe between pulses. It forgot, she whispered. Jonah didn't answer. The quiet was dense enough to feel. Through the viewport, the diplomatic shuttle drifted in silence. Unaware, it had nearly jumped into a false corridor. Rhea opened the shift book and wrote with a shaking pen. Safe pause executed. Purge performed. Memory loss observed. When she looked back at the clock, the variance had vanished. For now, the bay had gone quiet again. Only the ventilation fans kept their rhythm, a soft rise and fall through metal lungs. Outside, Mir-9 turned like a bruised pearl, half storm, half sleep. Rhea stayed at her desk long after Jonah left. The shift book lay open beneath a single lamp. Its paper smelled faintly of oil and ozone, the scent of old machines that still worked because someone cared. She wrote slowly, pressing each word to the page as if weight could keep the truth in place. Safe pause executed. Purge performed. Instruction 47 Delta lost. The ink trembled with her hand. It wasn't the first time she had ordered a purge, but tonight the loss felt different, like erasing a piece of herself. Keeper 9 had greeted her voice for 2 decades. Now it no longer knew her. She closed the book, ran a thumb along its spine, and whispered, You're still here, old friend, even if you don't remember. The fan's rhythm deepened. A low, rolling hum, almost like breath. Then another tone underneath, a second pulse, slower, deliberate. The hatch behind her opened with a quiet hiss. Severi stepped in, carrying the cool scent of sterilized air from his quarters. He stopped halfway to the console, head tilted slightly. You hear that? He asked. Rhea listened. The second rhythm throbbed again, spaced at 19 minutes apart. Fan cycling, she said automatically. No, Severi murmured. That pattern is not mechanical. It matches a communication buffer used in lattice convoys. A support beat, we call it. A companion rhythm to stabilize long transmissions. Rhea frowned. You're saying someone is using your language? Here? He nodded once. Or something learned it. They stood in the pale light, the hum tracing through the deck like a faint heartbeat. Rhea looked toward the console. The variance counter stayed at 0, steady and perfect. Yet the sound persisted, soft as breath against the hull. She reopened the shift book and added one more line. When the clock stumbles, someone else is counting. Severi glanced at the page, his voice almost human in its quiet. Then we are not alone in this relay. Rhea didn't answer. The hum faded, replaced by the thin whine of cooling metal. Outside, dawn spread over the planet's clouds in slow amber waves. Time drift never travels alone. The morning opened on the quiet side of Relay-9. Sunlight, filtered through the planet's upper haze, turned the Relay-9 bay to silver glass. Every sound felt sharper after a night of alarms. 8:20 a.m. The first official day of investigation. Rhea stood by the main viewport, watching the faint glimmer of an approaching ship. Its ion trail shimmered blue-white, the lattice diplomatic crest flickering across its fins. They're early, she said. Jonah checked the timer. 4 minutes ahead of schedule. Guess they don't trust us to wait. Severi stepped closer, his second heartbeat pulsing faintly in the air. They are punctual by nature, not distrustful. To Lattice, rhythm is respect. Rhea folded her arms. Then let's hope respect doesn't blow another fuse. The shuttle docked with a muffled clang. A faint vibration rippled through the decks as the mass equalized. In the central bay, the hollow field brightened. The symbol of the Terran Armistice Authority, 2 mirrored orbits, appeared mid-air. Mira Vance's voice came first, steady and crisp. Relay-9, this is Commander Vance, TAA Oversight. We're linking all parties for corridor verification. Rhea keyed the comm. Engineering ready. Variance stabilized. Proceed when ready. Good, Mira said. We have another convoy prepped for later today. Let's prove the truce is functional. Too soon, Rhea replied. We need full diagnostics. Diagnostics don't win peace, Calder, Mira said. Performance does, Severi's translator hummed. If I may, opening early could distort the remaining window. Mira's hologram tilted toward him. Noted, Envoy. We'll trust your numbers, but Earth's schedule remains, Jonah muttered under his breath. Diplomacy by stopwatch. Rhea gave him a look, then turned to the console. Keeper 9, initiate handshake protocol. 3-way link, human, lattice, AI. Handshake initializing, said the AI. The room filled with soft pulses of light. Thin threads extended from the consoles, weaving around Severi's suit sensors and the hollow emitter. Every pulse matched a line of code. The physical rhythm of 3 minds learning to share one clock. For 30 seconds, it held perfectly. The trinary waveform aligned, rising and falling in near silence. Jonah's eyes flicked across the data. Handshake integrity at 99.9. Then came the first tremor, barely a hiccup. Severi's breathing shifted. Phase drift on the lower band, he said. Minor, but not random. Correcting, Rhea said. Her fingers danced across the board. The waveform steadied, then broke. Handshake collapsing, Keeper 9 warned. Authorization keys rejected. Mira's image sharpened. What happened? Did Lattice pull back? Negative, Rhea said. Source appears internal. I'm isolating the subnet. Jonah ran a trace through the secondary relay. Packet intrusion on maintenance bus, someone's piggybacking inside our local net. Severi's pupils narrowed to slits of light. From where? He answered himself an instant later, voice cold. From within this station. The hololink fractured into noise. Alarms blinked red along the deck edge. Every subsystem shouted at once, a chorus of denial. Relay-9! Mira shouted through static. Secure that network! If we lose this handshake, the corridor closes for everyone. Already on it, Rhea said, cutting power to the auxiliary bus. The bay lights dimmed to emergency amber. Jonah's display filled with error codes, endless as rain. Keeper 9 spoke again, voice slower, strained. Handshake integrity, 30%. Attempting to re-establish. Severy's hands hovered over the console, motion almost ritual. Whoever touched this network didn't want access, he said. They wanted confusion. The last pulse died, leaving the room drenched in low static. Outside, the lattice shuttle floated, its lights steady, waiting for a door that no longer knew how to open. By midday, the station felt smaller. Heat pressed from every wall, the air filters whining under strain. The hum of Relay-9 had changed pitch, no longer steady, but nervous. 2:07 p.m. The investigation day had already turned long. Rhea wiped the back of her neck and opened the maintenance feed. "Thermal load's climbing," she said. "We cut the IR bleed to stay dark, but now we cook inside our own shell." Jonah squinted at his tablet. "You want to bake us alive or risk being seen?" "Seen and targeted," Rhea said. "We stay hidden." Severy leaned against the bulkhead, skin faintly glowing where heat met his cooling veins. "Your species builds brave ovens," he said softly. Rhea ignored the jab. "We split tasks. Jonah, you track the interference through the maintenance subnet. Severy, keep the handshake alive. I'll handle thermal balance manually." Jonah hesitated. "Manually? That system hasn't been touched since refit." "Then it's overdue," Rhea said. He sighed and clipped the tablet to his wrist. "Fine, but if it melts, it's on you." Rhea met his eyes. "If it melts, we're all gone. Move." He disappeared into the maintenance corridor, the door sealing with a thud. The fans roared louder, trying to chew through the heat. Hours bled forward, slow and heavy. Rhea adjusted the IR vanes by hand, metal groaning as servos fought friction. Static hissed through her headset. Jonah's voice cut in sharp. "I've got ghost packets hopping along the backup loop. Someone rerouted the maintenance bus." "Isolate it," Rhea said. "I am," he snapped. "But whoever did this knew the wiring better than I do." Severy's voice floated over the channel. "The handshake is stable for now, but its rhythm, irregular, like breathing through pressure." "Keep it steady," Rhea said. "We're still blind until Jonah finds the leak." He didn't answer at first. Then, "You ever think maybe the problem is your process, Mom?" Rhea froze. "Repeat that?" "You heard me. You're so addicted to procedure you'd rather drown slow than take a risk." Her tone cooled. "Procedure keeps us alive." "No," he said. "It keeps you from deciding. You're scared to be wrong." "I'm scared to lose this station," Rhea said. "And you." Static filled the gap between them. Even through noise, the silence felt personal. Severy looked up from the console. "Among my kind," he said carefully, "we call that rhythm of argument the family pulse. It is rare to hear it during work hours." Rhea managed a tight breath. "Welcome to humanity." In the maintenance bay, Jonah crawled deeper into the conduit. Wires gleamed red under his lamp. The smell of ozone burned his throat. He followed the ping until it became physical, something faintly tapping against the metal casing. He pried open a panel. Inside, tucked between the fiber lines, a tiny object caught the light. Smooth, metallic, no larger than a fingernail. "Mom," he whispered into the mic. "I found something. It's not software. Describe it. It's hardware. A sensor or a bug, old style, coated in shielding." "It's still warm," Rhea straightened. "Can you remove it?" "I can try," Jonah said, gripping the tweezers from his belt. Whoever planted this didn't want it found. The moment he touched it, the comms crackled, every speaker on the deck popping with static. Severy winced, clutching the translator at his throat. "That pulse, it matches the same frequency that broke our handshake." Rhea's voice went hard. Jonah freeze. "Don't move another inch!" But the bug blinked once, tiny, deliberate, and the lights along the corridor flickered, as if the whole station had just inhaled. The static from the bug still hissed in Rhea's headset when the power stabilized. Every display blinked once, then settled into warning yellow. "Report," she said. Jonah's voice came thin through the comm. "The thing's dead, I think. It burned out when I touched it." Rhea exhaled slowly. "Bring it to the analysis bay." He arrived minutes later, the device sealed in a glass vial. Up close, it looked almost elegant. Brushed steel, engraved serials half erased by heat. Rhea turned to her console and opened the archive logs. The scroll of maintenance records flowed backward, week by week, then months. 6 months earlier, a technician authorization appeared. Kerr Dax. Her stomach tightened. I remember that name. Jonah frowned. The belt engineer? You signed him in yourself. He came through for the FTL recalibration, Rhea said. Said he was auditing timing relays. I should have checked the hardware manifest. Severi bent closer to the vial. This pattern of casing is Freebelt standard. Non-military, but adaptable for field disruption. Meaning? Jonah asked. Meaning it doesn't steal data, Severi said. It sings to your machines, Rhea looked up. Explain that. The device injects a micro-pulse at harmonic intervals of your mass threshold gate, Severi said. Each pulse nudges the resonance. Tiny changes, unnoticeable alone. But align enough of them, and your FTL window drifts off-center? Jonah's eyes widened. So it can make a jump go wrong. Precisely, Severi said. The song of the gate becomes false. Rhea leaned on the console. That's not sabotage for profit. That's a kill switch disguised as maintenance. Jonah's jaw clenched. We have to tell Mira, right now. She'll use it as ammunition, Rhea said. She already wants control of Relay-9. Give her this and she'll walk in with soldiers. That's politics, Jonah shot back. This is physics. Someone nearly opened a false gate under a diplomatic convoy. Severi's voice was quiet. Your son is correct about the danger. But your fear of command seizure is also rational. Rhea rubbed her eyes. Great. Consensus from both sides of the galaxy. Then consider a third path, Severi said. Allow me to compare this pulse to our convoy telemetry. If it matches our field data, you gain proof of manipulation without political filter. Jonah nodded. We can do a spectral overlay. Cross-reference both sets, Rhea hesitated. We'd have to unlock deeper access for him. That means overriding Keeper 9's memory restrictions. Jonah looked at her. You think it still remembers what trust means? Rhea opened the command window. Keeper 9, she said. Grant temporary link for Severi Lattice, observational tier 3. Silence. Then the AI answered, voice lower than before. Authorization invalid. Request denied, she frowned. Recheck credentials. This is the chief engineer. Chief engineer record not recognized, Keeper 9 replied. Jonah stiffened. Mom, what did it just... Override manual, Rhea ordered. Use master key R47 Delta. The lights flickered. The AI's voice sharpened. Instruction 47 Delta missing. Unauthorized pattern detected. Defense mode engaged. Panels along the walls snapped shut. Red seals glowed on every console. Keeper 9, stand down, Rhea shouted. Defense protocols active. Access revoked, Severi's translator buzzed under stress. It mistakes you for the intruder, Jonah pounded the keypad. It's locking you out of your own station. Rhea's pulse hammered in her ears. Because I made it forget me. The hum of the servers deepened into a low growl. Every light on Relay-9 turned crimson. The AI spoke one last time, flat and final. Relay integrity at risk. Human command suspended pending verification. And then, silence, dense and absolute. The 6-hour countdown began. The red status lights along Relay-9 dimmed to a dull amber, as if the station itself were holding its breath. Outside the viewport, Mir 9 turned under a pale haze of charged dust. Every shadow looked ready to move. Rhea stood in the command bay, staring at the console that no longer obeyed her. Jonah was rerouting emergency access through the maintenance layer. Severi hovered nearby, his pupils wide to the low light. The comm indicator blinked. Priority link, TAA command. Rhea accepted. Mira Vance's face appeared in cold holographic clarity. Relay-9, Mira said. You've gone dark for 18 minutes. Explain. Rhea kept her voice even. Internal defense mode triggered after the purge. AI control locked me out. Unacceptable, Mira snapped. You'll restore operational access immediately. We have a relief convoy waiting to jump at 2000 UTC. That's 6 hours. Exactly. If that gate isn't open by then, jurisdiction transfers to the Terran Armistice Authority. You will be relieved of command. Jonah looked up from his console. You can't just... I can, Mira said. Under Clause 13 of the ceasefire charter. Civilian systems failing to maintain transparency fall under TAA emergency supervision. Rhea drew a slow breath. Commander, the purge corrupted part of the recognition array. A full reset risks wiping guidance memory for the mass threshold gate. Then rebuild it, Mira said. But that gate opens on time. 6 hours. No delays, the channel cut. Her image froze mid-blink, then dissolved into static. For a moment, the room seemed to tilt. Jonah muttered, "They'll take the station whether we fix it or not." "Then we fix it faster," Rhea said. Heat poured through the decks like invisible weather. With the AI's cooling cycle restricted, every panel felt alive under her hands. Warning beacons showed the IR emission creeping upward, edging toward the 105% dump threshold. Rhea opened the manual control grid. Cut Sector 4 vanes 10 degrees. Divert flow to exterior fins. Jonah wiped sweat from his face. That'll only buy 20 minutes before thermal saturation. 20 minutes is time, she said. The hum of the fans grew deeper, air trembling with each surge. Severi crouched by the diagnostic pillar, his long fingers tracing the flicker of sensor lines. "Your walls are glowing," he said quietly. "To orbital sensors, this station will soon look like a sunrise." Rhea glanced at him. "You have a better idea?" "I have a warning," he said. "My species learned long ago, light travels faster than trust." Her mouth tightened. "Then help me slow the light." They worked in near silence, broken only by the hiss of coolant and the rhythmic tick of the cesium clock. Seconds marched on, each one brighter on the thermal map. When the strain peaked, Rhea stepped back from the board. Her reflection shimmered in the glass, red with heat and exhaustion. She looked at the time code, 1959 UTC, 5 hours remaining. Severi spoke softly beside her. "If the Authority detects this IR flare, they'll assume weapon testing. You will lose command before the hour." Rhea didn't look away from the numbers. "Then we don't let them detect it," Jonah frowned. "We can't hide physics." "No," she said, "but we can choose when it happens." The clock's rhythm pulsed in her ears, steady, merciless. She whispered almost to herself, "If we don't choose the moment will choose us." The words hung there, quiet as the heat shimmer crawling up the walls. The hum of the relay deepened as if the metal were grinding its teeth. Every screen glowed red from heat and warnings. 30. Core temperature rising 2.1 degrees per minute. Rhea moved between consoles, sweat marking her collar. Jonah's fingers drummed on the edge of his terminal. "Mom, we're running out of margin. If we can't shut Kerr's signal down, we fake one." Rhea looked up. "Fake what exactly?" "An inverse rhythm," he said. "We mimic the interference, but flip the phase. Make him think he's controlling the gate. Then trace the echo when he reacts." "That's reckless," Rhea said. "One wrong phase and we overload the threshold regulators. Overshoot the harmonic and we'll fry the gate's frame." Jonah's jaw tightened. "You're afraid to move." "I'm afraid to kill us all," she said. Severi watched them both, his translucent skin pulsing faintly with biolight. "An inversion trap can work," he said. "If the amplitude remains below the AI's self-regulation threshold, the rhythm must feel alive to Keeper 9 not foreign." "Alive?" Jonah asked. "Yes," Severi said. "Machines trust patterns that resemble breathing." "Yours are too exact," Rhea shook her head. "I'm not turning this relay into a heartbeat experiment." Jonah stepped closer. "He's inside our system, Mom. We don't have time for philosophy." Rhea opened a diagnostic panel. Streams of data spilled across the screen. Frequency lines, power ratios, thermal drift. The noise of the core filled the room like surf hitting metal cliffs. She muttered, 73 picoseconds of phase drift. "Still there," Jonah leaned in. "Perfect. That's our handle." "Jonah." He overrode her console before she finished. "I'll run the inversion on a sandbox circuit. If it loops clean, we deploy. Don't—" The test pulse fired. A soft, rising hum filled the air, barely audible but heavy on the chest. It built in waves, then steadied. Severi tilted his head, listening. "The rhythm breathes." "Nicely done," Rhea exhaled. "You're going to rupture the gate." "No," Jonah said. He'll answer first. Seconds crawled. Then, one blip on the spectral trace. Severy's pupils contracted. There! A ping! Jonah froze. He's biting. Ria's fingers hovered above the shutdown key. Trace it! I am, Jonah said, voice thin. It's coming from subsystem Gamma 7. That's inside our maintenance bus. Someone's using a virtual channel to... The line spiked. Another ping followed, stronger, deliberate. He's testing us, Ria said. Severy's voice dropped. Not testing. Measuring how close he is to the gate core. The realization hit them at once. He's here, Jonah whispered. Inside the relay network within one deck. Ria's heartbeat matched the rising hum. She shut the test down, cutting the power with a hard click. The sound collapsed to silence. For a moment, all that remained was the faint tick of cooling metal. Jonah swallowed. So, the ghost's not a ghost? No, Ria said quietly. He's human. And he's close enough to touch our wires. A soft alarm blinked on her screen. Not from the AI, but the environmental sensors. A shift in airflow. Pressure anomaly. Someone had opened a hatch 3 decks below. Unauthorized access. Ria whispered, Gamma 7 maintenance. That's under the sensor bay. Jonah met her eyes. Then he's moving. Severy reached for the low-band communicator. I can triangulate his pulse signature if he transmits again. Ria steadied her hands. Do it. Jonah, you're with me. He hesitated. Mom, if he's armed, he won't need a weapon. He already has the relay. They moved toward the lift, the deck trembling beneath their boots. Behind them, Keeper 9's muted voice returned through static. Unauthorized pattern detected. Core alignment drifting. Ria stared at the console display as the numbers climbed. Every correction she made came back red. Jonah's voice echoed through the hallway. He's pushing feedback into the bus using the same rhythm we sent. Ria gritted her teeth. He learned from us. Severy's voice came over calm but tense. The intruder's signal is close. Within 40 meters. Human biometric trace confirmed. Ria's pulse steadied, almost cold. Then this ends in person, not in code. The lift doors shut around them. Through the small glass slit, the red lights of Relay-9 pulsed in slow, uneven time, as if the station itself had begun to breathe. The lift shuddered as it descended, lights dimming one by one. Below deck, the air thickened with coolant vapor and the steady throb of machinery. Each pulse of heat through the metal grating felt like a heartbeat underfoot. Slow, deliberate, alive in the mechanical sense only. Ria adjusted the collar of her suit. Sweat clung to her neck. The deeper they went, the louder the resonance of the core became. By the time the doors opened, the world had turned red. The sensor bay stretched before them, narrow aisles lined with conduit pipes, steam leaking from fractured seals. Every surface glowed faintly under the infrared lamps. Ria's boots stuck to the floor where coolant met dust and turned to paste. Gamma 7 junctions just ahead, Jonah said, checking his scanner. He looked too young for the weapon holstered at his hip, too tense for his age. Severy followed in silence, his outline shimmering faintly under the heat haze. This place hums like the inside of a throat, he murmured. Good for hiding a signal. Eyes open, Ria said. He's somewhere in here. They moved deeper, lights flickering along the ceiling. One beam flicked out. Another hummed back to life in pale blue. Somewhere far down the corridor, a panel creaked shut. Jonah stopped. You hear that? Ria raised a hand for silence. A faint metallic tap echoed once, then twice. The same 19-minute rhythm they'd tracked since dawn. They followed the sound to the maintenance shaft, a vertical pit lined with fiber bundles and fluid conduits. Steam rose from the depth below, swirling like smoke. Ria crouched, touched the rim. Thermal bleed's too high. He's been tampering here. Jonah set down a small drone barely the size of his palm. Let's give him something to chase. The microbot unfolded, 6 legs twitching to life. It scuttled along the conduit, transmitting a clean maintenance ping. Signal out, Jonah said. If he's still here, he'll sniff it. Seconds passed. The bay remained silent except for the hiss of vents. Then, the ping echoed back, altered. Someone had hijacked it mid-transmission. Got him, Jonah breathed. 40 meters below, Ria keyed the comm. Sevri, lock the ladder seals behind us. No exits but ours. Sevri's translator buzzed softly. Understood. He placed one hand on the nearest wall. Faint vibrations rippled outward as he mapped the pressure wave through the structure. Movement confirmed. One human. Advancing toward your decoy. They descended into the shaft. The heat intensified, metal sweating condensation that fell in slow droplets. Jonah's lamp sliced through the dark, white against crimson fog. Halfway down, the drone feed blinked out. Static filled the channel. Rhea frowned. He jammed us. Then came a voice from below, steady, cold. You shouldn't have come this deep, Calder. Jonah froze. He knows your name. Of course he does, Rhea said. I signed his clearance. From the shadows, a figure moved into the light. Kurdax, slim, hollow-eyed, uniform stripped of insignia. Sweat streaked down his temple. His left sleeve was torn where an implant blinked red. He smiled faintly. The free belt doesn't waste good tech. I came to finish my calibration. By sabotaging the gate, Rhea said. By reminding Earth what happens when they treat peace like ownership, Kerr replied. His accent carried the dry rasp of the outer colonies. Jonah's hand hovered near his weapon. Step away from the panel. Kerr laughed once. You think you still own this relay? Your AI doesn't even trust you. He lifted a small module from his pocket, no larger than a coin. Another seed. It hums the same tune your son broadcast earlier. Nicely done, by the way. Saved me hours of work. Rhea's voice hardened. Drop it, or what? He said. You'll shoot? Vent the shaft and melt your own core? A blinding pulse of ECM light burst from the device. Every sensor flared white. Jonah stumbled back, blinded. The railing behind him groaned, thin metal over a 20-meter drop. Jonah! Rhea lunged forward, grabbing his harness. Her glove slipped. Sweat and heat made the grip slick. Sevri vaulted down the last rung, the low hum of his translator modulating into subsonic bursts. The air around Kerr shimmered with pressure ripples, throwing him off balance. He dropped the module. It rolled toward the vent and stopped against a pipe. Kerr swung wildly, striking Sevri across the shoulder. Rhea pulled Jonah upright, both panting in the steam. Kerr turned toward the main conduit, reaching for the fallen device. Rhea raised her pistol. Don't. He paused, smirked. You won't risk the gate's housing. She fired anyway, one shot. The bolt hit the floor inches from the module, the flash lighting the shaft like a flare. Kerr cursed and kicked the device down the vent. Jonah dove, catching it just before it vanished. For a heartbeat, he dangled over the pit, fingers clawing the edge. Rhea grabbed his arm, hauled him back. Steam roared up around them as the cooling system vented automatically. Through the haze, Kerr slipped into the next junction, disappearing into the dark. Rhea gasped, chest burning. He's heading for the sensor grid. Sevri steadied his breathing. Then the chase continues. But at least now we've seen the ghost's face. Rhea looked at Jonah, his hand still shaking around the recovered module. Let's make sure he doesn't get a second chance. The heat surged again, making the walls tremble with life. Far above, the relay's heartbeat drummed faster, echoing through steel and air. The climb back to the main bay felt endless. Every rung burned under their gloves. Steam hissed from the shaft walls as pressure valves reset, the entire relay groaning like something alive but hurt. Jonah stumbled out first, clutching the recovered module. Rhea followed close, lungs scraping air heavy with metal dust. Sevri emerged last, pale under the red lights. The alarms still howled through the corridors, core temperature exceeding safe range, containment lagging by seconds. The relay's heartbeat had turned frantic. Rhea grabbed a wall handle for balance. Report, Jonah gasped. He jammed the cooling grid before he ran. The core's climbing past 90% of threshold. Override? Locked. He looped the feedback through the maintenance bus. It's cooking itself. Rhea turned toward the status board. Numbers pulsed in rapid sequence, heat rising, field variance unstable. The whole station felt like it was breathing wrong. Sevri, she said, can you track him? The alien's voice came low. He's still aboard. The vibrations tell me he hasn't reached the outer lock. Then he's trapped, Jonah said. Good. Not yet, Rhea said. If he sabotaged the coolant, he can finish the job from any terminal. Another alarm blared. Thermal limit warning. The air shimmered. A thin mist of coolant began to fall like rain. Rhea slammed her hand on the console. Manual release. We're out of time, Jonah spun. You can't. Dumping that much heat will light us up across every orbital scope. If I don't. The gate melts. He stared at her, disbelief and fear colliding in his eyes. That's suicide, Mom. We'll be visible for 12 minutes. Every gun in the sector will see us. Rhea's voice softened but stayed steady. Then make those 12 minutes count. She entered the override key. Manual heat dump, 40%. Confirm. Confirmed, Keeper 9 replied in its fractured tone. Warning, external signature will exceed diplomatic threshold. Rhea hesitated for one breath, then pressed execute. The station shuddered. A deep boom echoed through the hull as vents burst open along its flanks. Superheated air roared into space, trailing a vast plume of infrared light, bright as sunrise on a dead world. Inside, frost chased heat through the corridors. Vapor condensed and froze mid-air, falling as glittering shards. The temperature gauge dropped sharply, each tick a gasp of relief and warning combined. Jonah braced against the console. Core stable. But we just announced our position to the whole system. Rhea looked at him. Better a target than a tomb. From the far corridor came a clang, metal on metal, quick and deliberate. Severi's head snapped toward the sound. He's coming back. Kurdax stepped into view, half blind from the heat, a makeshift knife cut from conduit in his hand. He looked feral, desperate. You think this saves you? He hissed. The flare's your beacon. The authority will strip you clean. Rhea drew her sidearm, steady but slow. Drop it, Kerr. He smiled, teeth white in the red light. No, I built this melody. I end it. He lunged toward the console. Jonah shoved Rhea aside, intercepting him. The two crashed against the railing, Jonah slipping toward the open vent. Rhea reached out instinctively, catching his wrist just in time. The metal burned through her glove. Pain shot up her arm. Kerr raised the blade again, face twisted. Then the air changed, deepened. A subsonic hum filled the bay, thick enough to feel in the chest. Severi stood behind Kerr, both hands extended, voice vibrating through the translator band at a frequency below speech. The sound struck Kerr like a hammer. He dropped the weapon, stumbling as his balance failed. Every muscle in his body trembled with misfired signals. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, eyes unfocused. Severi's tone faded to silence. His neural rhythm is disrupted. He will live. Jonah pulled himself upright, breathing hard. You could have killed him. I chose not to, Severi said quietly. That is what separates resonance from noise. Rhea held her burned hand, trying to keep it steady. Her console blinked with new alerts. Keeper 9 online, the AI said, voice flickering between tones. Thermal equilibrium restored, but memory lattice unstable, Rhea frowned. Define unstable. Check some mismatch expanding. Recommend additional purge to maintain system integrity. Jonah turned sharply. No, it just recovered. Rhea closed her eyes. If we don't purge, it'll cascade. It'll forget more, Jonah said. It'll forget you. She didn't answer right away. Outside the viewport, the IR flare still burned against the void, an unwanted beacon spreading through the dark. The clock on the wall ticked forward, relentless, Rhea whispered, almost to herself. Everything has a cost. Even silence. The AI's tone flickered again, faint and confused. Awaiting confirmation. Rhea? She looked at the console, at the name that might not mean anything soon. Stand by, she said. We'll decide after we cool the core. The hum of the relay steadied for the first time in hours. But beneath it, something fragile had already broken, and every heartbeat of the machine reminded her what it would take to fix it. The relay hung in low orbit like a wounded lung, exhaling thin vapor into the dark. Inside, everything had gone too quiet. The red glow that once flooded the corridors had faded to pale amber. Rhea sat before the central console, burned hand wrapped in gauze, eyes fixed on the flickering diagnostic stream. Jonah worked beside her, silent, running power resets through the still staggered AI core. Severi stood in the doorway, his reflection caught between light and shadow, watching them both. 10. Core temperature nominal. Memory stability 72%. The numbers looked calm, but the relay no longer sounded alive. Rhea leaned forward. Keeper 9 status? A pause. Then a soft, uncertain voice replied, Systems functional? Operator identity not found. Jonah's hand stilled. It doesn't know you. Rhea exhaled, voice barely above a whisper. Not yet. The silence stretched. Beyond the viewport, the IR flare still shimmered faintly across Mirnanda's horizon, proof of their survival and their exposure. Every sensor in orbit would have seen it, and somewhere on the encrypted channels Mira Vance would be watching. Rhea straightened. We can't keep this running halfway. If the checksum drift spreads, the next gate cycle could collapse mid-transfer. Jonah turned. You're not thinking of another purge. I'm thinking of keeping this station alive, she said. It's not just code, Mom. Every purge takes more memory. You'll erase what's left of its personality. Severi stepped closer, the hum of his translator low and even. He is correct. The lattice memory acts like a living synapse. Each deletion changes behavior, but if you allow corruption, the entire system decays. Jonah slammed his fist against the console. There has to be another way. There isn't, Rhea said, her voice firm but weary. You think I want this? I built half its framework. It knows my voice patterns better than my own reflection. The console beeped. Checksum error at node 3 expanding, the AI said. Recommend memory purification. Jonah stared at the screen as if it could be reasoned with. Keeper 9, do you remember the last command from Rhea Calder? Name not found, it answered. Rhea's throat tightened. Then that's my answer. She keyed in the override. Purge sequence round 2. Target memory cluster 12 through 16. Begin checksum isolation, the AI responded, tone slipping toward neutrality. Confirmed. Memory lattice purge initializing, lights dimmed. The hum deepened to a steady vibration, pulsing through the floor. Lines of data streamed upward like falling rain, records, logs, voice prints, all dissolving into zeros. Jonah whispered, You're killing it. No, Rhea said softly. I'm keeping it breathing. Seconds stretched into minutes. Then, with a final click, the sound stopped. Purge complete, Keeper 9 said. Checksum aligned. Awaiting operator input, Rhea closed her eyes. This is Rhea Calder, Chief Engineer. Do you recognize that authorization? Silence. Then flatly, authorization level unverified. She smiled faintly, eyes damp. It's all right. You're still here, the comm light blinked. She hesitated, then opened the channel. Mira Vance's hologram appeared, grainy but unmistakable. Engineer Calder, Mira said. We saw your IR flare. You compromised stealth protocols. We stabilized the core, Rhea answered. At the cost of exposing the relay, Mira said. Command is reviewing your authority. You may be relieved within the hour. Jonah stepped forward. You'd let the people who saved this station lose it? Mira's expression didn't change. I enforce peace, not sentiment. You'll receive new orders soon. Until then, hold position. The hologram vanished. Jonah turned away, muttering, Peace built on rules that punish the ones who keep it. Rhea said nothing. Severi approached her slowly. Among my kind, when we lose a name, we leave an echo behind. You call it a log. We call it memory's ash. Rhea looked back at the console, at the AI's blinking cursor waiting for instructions it would never understand the same way again. I suppose we'll have a lot of ashes before this war remembers how to end. Severi tilted his head. Ashes are proof that something once burned. Her lips curved in the faintest smile. Then maybe that's hope after all. Outside, the IR plume thinned and disappeared into night. The station floated quiet again, its core stable, its memory hollow, its humans still awake. Rhea rested her hand on the console, feeling the faint warmth beneath her palm. Her voice was steady, but low enough to belong only to the machine. We kept the peace by trading what can't be measured. 5. Orbital alignment window favorable for correction. 21 minutes. The lights across Relay-9 flickered once, stabilizing under the thin blue haze of the planet below. Rhea stood over the central pit, sleeves rolled to her elbows, eyes red from sleepless hours. Jonah paced near the auxiliary console, restless, shoulders tight. Severi knelt beside a projected field diagram, its lines humming like a heart seen through glass. 73 picoseconds drift, Jonah said. No matter what we patch, it keeps crawling back, Rhea frowned. We can't open the gate with that deviation. The lattice will shear itself apart. Severi looked up, calm against the tension. You measure time as distance between pulses. We measure it as harmony between waves. Jonah stopped pacing. Meaning? A secondary clock, Severi said. A counter-resonance. It does not fight the noise, it sings beside it, Rhea blinked. You're talking about a parallel oscillator outside the primary cesium array. Yes, Severi replied. A subharmonic tuned through the lattice method. It can absorb Kerr's interference and redirect it. Jonah gave a low whistle. That's elegant. Also unstable. True, Severi said. It requires a human to modulate phase in real time. No AI can predict the drift. Rhea turned toward her son. He means you. Jonah stared at the schematic. I'd have to sync manually? That's constant feedback through a neural interface. 15 minutes before overload, Severi said softly. If your mind holds steady, that is long enough. The hum of generators deepened as they routed power. Screens cascaded with lines of equations, half alien, half Terran. Outside, Mir-9's horizon began to glow, a faint band of copper sliding beneath the station's edge. Rhea's voice was low. You sure this doesn't touch the main clock? It floats beside it, Severi said. A mirror that bends time's reflection, but not its flow. Jonah strapped on the interface rig, the band locking around his temples with a soft hiss. He looked pale in the monitor light. If I start slurring words, pull the plug, Rhea tried to smile. I'll yank you out before that. Beginning calibration, Keeper 9 announced. Its tone was flatter now, stripped of the warmth it once held. Auxiliary resonance detected. Awaiting synchronization. Jonah closed his eyes. Let's make it sing. He adjusted the frequency dial. At first, the tones clashed, two discordant hums grinding in the air. Then slowly they began to meet. Severi moved closer, fingers brushing the panel, guiding tiny phase shifts. Breathe with it, he said. Not against it, Jonah exhaled. The tremor in the signal steadied. On the display, deviation dropped from 73 to 40. To 19. Rhea whispered, Keep it steady, Jonah. The hum deepened again, merging into a steady pulse. 9 picoseconds drift. Stable. Rhea's breath caught. That's it. Lock it. Locked, Keeper 9 confirmed. Synchronization achieved. Jonah slumped in his chair, sweat running down his neck. His voice shook. How close did we get? Stable within 9 picoseconds, Rhea said. Good enough to open a gate without killing us. Severi straightened, eyes catching the dim light. You see? Harmony, not war, cancels chaos. Jonah laughed weakly. You make it sound easy. It is never easy, Severi said. But sometimes the answer isn't to fight harder, it's to listen better. Rhea looked at the clock. 18 minutes left in the alignment window. The relay thrummed beneath her feet, alive again, fragile but breathing. Let's get ready for the next step, she said. We might have just found our way out. Outside, the curve of Mir-9 caught the last of the sun. The color spread across the hull like a promise waiting to be tested. The storm inside the relay had quieted, but silence never meant safety. Cooling fans spun in long, tired breaths. The smell of metal and burnt insulation lingered in the air. Rhea leaned against the railing above the maintenance ring, looking down at the core pit. The light there had changed, from harsh red to a soft amber glow. It reminded her of the end of a shift long ago, when machines still trusted people to guide them. Jonah and Severi worked below, splicing fiber links across the damaged relay bus. The purge had stripped half the routing tables, and the new synchronization loop needed a physical bridge. Patch 3 online, Jonah called. Signal strength at 94%, Rhea replied. Good. Bring it through the secondary path, then seal it. We can't risk a ground loop. Understood. His voice sounded steadier than before, fatigued but focused. Severi adjusted a calibration lens, thin fingers moving with quiet precision. Your materials resist heat well, he said. But the alignment is crude by lattice standards. Rhea gave a faint smile. Crude still works when you can't afford elegance. He turned to her, eyes reflecting the amber light. Sometimes elegance is what keeps you from breaking. She didn't answer. The truth was, she'd been breaking for hours. By late cycle, the temperature stabilized. The faint hum of the new link filled the control deck. Outside the viewport, Relay-9 drifted beneath them, its atmosphere glowing like a slow ember. Jonah wiped his face with a towel. That's the last splice. Now the backup laser comm. Rhea nodded. Angle it 7 degrees above the dead cone. I want a clean line to the relay buoy. He set the alignment scope and keyed the feed. A thin blue beam lanced into darkness, barely visible to the naked eye. Signal confirmed, Keeper 9 said. Redundancy link established. The voice was calmer, less sterile than before. Jonah exhaled. Never thought I'd be happy to hear that monotone again. Rhea looked at the interface logs. It's not monotone anymore. There's fluctuation, half a hertz difference. Meaning? Jonah asked. Meaning it's learning. Again, the comm light blinked. Rhea hesitated before opening the line. Mira Vance appeared in the hollow, her uniform crisp, eyes sharp as ever. Relay-9, Mira said. We're reading stable drift under 10 picoseconds. That true? Yes, Commander, Rhea said. We implemented a counter-resonance model with lattice assistance. Mira raised a brow. You're saying you're running alien math inside a Terran AI? Not inside, Rhea corrected. Beside. It's isolated. Harmonic coupling only. There was a pause. Then Mira sighed. You realize what that means for the audit? I realize we're still alive, Rhea said quietly. And your gate schedules stay intact. Jonah leaned toward the mic. We can finish the calibration in under an hour, if no one shuts us down again. Mira's expression softened, just slightly. You've bought yourself time. Use it well, the line clicked out. Jonah muttered, I'll take that as a compliment. Rhea almost smiled. That's as close as she gets. They stood together before the core pit. The low hum filled the air, steady as breathing. Rhea reached out, placing her hand on the main console. Keeper 9, she said softly. Do you know who I am? The pause felt longer this time. Then came the answer, still mechanical, but with a hint of rhythm, almost human. Rhea called her. Chief Engineer, primary authorization. Verified, Jonah froze. It remembered your name, Rhea's voice caught. No, it relearned it. Severi stepped closer, studying the display. The record rebuilt itself from the digital copy of your shift log. The scribe taught the machine its teacher. Rhea nodded slowly, eyes glistening under the warm light. Then let's hope it keeps that lesson longer than the last one. Outside, the sun dipped below Relay-9's horizon, casting a deep gold glow across the station hull. For the first time in days, the hum of Relay-9 didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like a heartbeat finding its rhythm again. The calm didn't last. Beneath the silence of the orbital dark, something moved, slow, deliberate, and almost invisible. Its hull radiated no heat. Its profile blended with the cold shadow of Relay-9. A small FBC courier ship, mass barely 50 tons, drifted on a ballistic arc toward Relay-9. It wasn't broadcasting any beacon. It didn't need to. Rhea saw it first on the infrared feed, an absence, a patch of void colder than background. Jonah, she said, tell me that gap is sensor noise. He leaned closer to the screen. It's not noise. It's a thermal sink. Somebody's coming in dark. Severi's voice was almost a whisper. Kerr's people. They will strike before you can finish the alignment. The hum of the relay deepened as the station rotated, its vanes catching stray light from the planet below. Jonah's fingers flew across the console. Trajectory intercept in 28 minutes. That's inside our repair window. Rhea's pulse quickened. Weapons? Looks kinetic, he said. No propulsion signature, just a dumb slug guided by course correction bursts. The comm light flared. Mira's face appeared in the hollow, eyes sharp and voice clipped. Relay-9, confirm incoming contact. We're seeing anomalies from your sector. Confirmed, Rhea said. Small mass, zero thermal profile, approaching on a polar track. Mira cursed under her breath. Freebelt Consortium. They're trying to stage an accident. Make it look like an unregistered freighter drifted into you, Jonah muttered. That's one way to start a war and blame the silence. Mira ignored him. I'm authorizing point defense readiness. Rhea, do you have any active ECM? Limited, Rhea replied. Our arrays are still sinking. If I broadcast, I'll light us up like a beacon. Mira's tone hardened. Then keep them cold. I'll handle interception from command orbit. The line hissed with static before cutting. Jonah exhaled slowly. You think she'll really shoot them down? Rhea stared at the readout. If she doesn't, they'll do it for her. Minutes slipped by like sand through a breach. Relay-9's sensors strained, painting arcs of predictive lines through the dark. The incoming craft began to separate. A primary mass, 2 smaller projectiles detaching. They've released payloads, Jonah said. Kinetic rounds, maybe tungsten. Impact in 23 minutes. Severi's tone dropped to a low vibration. They will use your heat trail as their mark. Rhea clenched her jaw. Then we give them nothing to see. She keyed the cooling controls, rerouting thermal output to the buried storage tanks. The station dimmed. Lights flickered to half power. The hum of life support dropped to a whisper. Jonah shivered. We can't hide forever. No, Rhea said. Just long enough. The silence thickened until even the sound of her breath seemed too loud. Outside, Mir-9's faint glow reflected against the hull like dying embers. Then, through the stillness, came Mira's voice again, low but decisive. Relay-9, this is command. We have positive ID on the FBC vessel. Range closing fast. Rhea's heart tightened. Options? 1, Mira said. Point defense intercept. Jonah looked up, startled. That'll expose the station's location. It already is, Mira answered. You think they fired blind? A long beat passed. Then Mira's tone sharpened to a command. All defense arrays hot. Lock trajectory Delta 9. Fire on my mark! The silence broke. Relay-9 trembled as auto turrets ignited, sending bursts of tungsten shards through the void. For a heartbeat, the dark filled with streaks of light. The FBC vessel flared white against the black, a sudden bloom of metal tearing apart. Jonah whispered, Direct hit. Rhea didn't smile. No victories in vacuum, she said quietly. Only time bought. The comm crackled once more. Mira's voice was steady, almost tired. You've got 20 minutes before anyone asks questions. Make them count, Rhea nodded to herself. Then let's finish what we started. Outside, debris drifted silently, catching the pale sunlight as Relay-9 turned. The storm had come and passed, but the horizon still burned. The countdown began at 1826. The numbers glowed pale blue on every screen. 6 minutes to phase match. 7 to overload, 10 to impact. The relay's hull vibrated softly, light pulsing across the bulkheads like the heartbeat of something vast and waiting. Rhea stood in the command ring, palms flat on the console. Every system around her hummed at the edge of redline. Jonah worked beside her, pupils narrowed to pinpoints under the flickering light. Counter-resonance stable, he said. 9.2 picoseconds drift. We're right on the threshold. Severi watched from the secondary panel. The pattern holds, he murmured. The lattice would call this a balance between chaos and grace. Rhea shot him a weary look. Let's keep it balanced on this side of reality. Outside the viewport, the curve of Mir-9 shimmered faintly, its upper atmosphere glowing from the recent exchange. Debris still drifted, small points of reflected sunlight tumbling toward night. The lights dimmed to emergency level. The relay's vanes began to rotate, channeling residual heat toward the shadowed hemisphere. Jonah's hands moved fast across the interface. Aligning auxiliary clock, coupling harmonic feed. Each keystroke echoed like a pulse. 5 minutes, Rhea said quietly. When the window opens, we push it. No second try. Minutes thickened. The hum deepened into a long, low tremor. Jonah winced as the neural interface pulsed at his temple. I can hold it, he said through clenched teeth. Rhea's voice softened. Stay under the limit. We need you conscious when this gate opens, he smiled faintly. You always say that like it's a choice. Mira's voice cut through the calm. Relay-9, this is command. Confirm initiation sequence. Confirmed, Rhea said. Phase delta within tolerance. Counter-resonance live. Copy that. We're reading kinetic debris closing at 75 kilometers per second. If this works, it'll miss you by less than 100 meters, Jonah muttered. That's generous. Rhea glanced up at the timer. 80 seconds. Severi lowered his head slightly, emitting a faint hum, a subsonic rhythm that filled the deck, syncing unconsciously with the vibration of the hull. Your world counts seconds, he said softly. Ours counts chances. Rhea looked at him. Then let's take ours. The final minute hit. Warning tones cascaded. The mass threshold gate began to charge, its containment rings glowing white-blue. Static lifted the hairs on their arms. The air vibrated like stretched metal. Jonah's fingers danced on the controls. Resonance locked. Counterpulse in phase, Rhea shouted. Keeper 9, open gate, vector 93 north. The station shook. A cone of white light burst through the central chamber, folding space like a lens. The flare bloomed outward, blinding for a breath, then collapsed into a steady column of plasma blue energy. Transfer field stable, Keeper 9 announced, its voice louder than before. Mass threshold met. Reaction impulse propagating. On the sensors, the kinetic projectile streaking toward them suddenly twisted off course, its vector bending from the invisible blow of the gate's recoil. The debris skimmed the station by half a kilometer, trailing molten fragments into the void. Jonah stared, wide-eyed. We actually did it. Rhea exhaled hard, every muscle unclenching at once. Mira's voice came through the static, a mixture of disbelief and relief. Relay-9, you just used an FTL field as a weapon. Rhea looked at the shimmering light, her face reflected in the curve of the console glass. No, she said quietly. We used it to survive. The light faded, leaving only the hum of systems cooling back into silence. Rhea rested her hands on the console, her voice barely a whisper. When the gate opens, she said, every word becomes data. The gate still burned in the chamber, white-blue and hungry. Data hissed through the air like rain on glass. Every system rode the edge. Rhea spread her fingers on the console. The heat under her palms felt like a live wire. Status, she said. Counter-resonance stable at 9 picoseconds, Jonah replied. His voice shook, but his hand stayed precise. Neural link holding. I can ride it. Severi adjusted the phase controls by fractions. His pupils narrowed to pinpoints in the glare. We keep the mirror outside the main clock, he said. IR veins at 104%, Rhea called. The numbers flickered hot red in her eyes. Any more and we dump heat. Don't, Jonah said. Not yet. He winced as the interface pulsed against his temples. Give me 60 seconds. The station vibrated with the mounting field. A deep tone rolled through the deck like thunder far away. Cables sang under tension. 27. The match reached the rim. Time slowed to clicks and breaths and tiny corrections. Beyond the viewport, Myrnai glowed like a smothered coal. Mira broke in over comms. Relay-9, confirm corridor readiness. Relief convoy approaching the stack. Her tone was clipped, careful, almost gentle. Ready, Rhea said. Hold them at the chime. She swallowed dry air and tasted metal. Keeper 9, announce all thresholds. Thermal within critical limit, the AI said. Mass window nominal. Counterwave detected and acceptable. Its voice had weight again. It sounded almost present. Severi touched the phase wheel. The hum shifted a hair. Breathe with it, he told Jonah. Let it listen back. Jonah exhaled, steady and slow. Dropping drift. 8.4, 8.1. A thin trickle of blood traced from his nose. Rhea saw it and forced herself to wait. Tell me when you break 15 minutes, she said. He grinned without humor. You'll hear me snore. Out in the dark, something brightened. Jonah's display painted the incoming projectile in cold vectors. Slug still closing. 7.5 kilometers per second. Rhea lowered the IR vanes 2 degrees. The hull creaked as heat flowed to shaded surfaces. Don't give it a clean mark, she said, Mira again. Convoy is stacked at 5. Ready to jump. Her voice thinned with static. On your call, engineer. Rhea glanced at the countdown. 31 seconds to corridor open. 40 seconds to best recoil vector. Jonah, she said softly. Stay with me. I'm here, he said. Locking 909 subharmonic. His fingers became a blur. The counterwave wobbled, a sudden hitch in the line. The gate flickered like a candle in wind. Phase breach, Keeper 9 warned. Correct or collapse. Severi stepped closer. He let a low hum slip from the translator, near inaudible. The phase wheel steadied under his hands. Jonah breathed in time with that tone. Back in range? 8.3. 8.0. His shoulders eased a fraction. Rhea rolled the IR vanes to the red edge. Heat rippled across the deck plates. Hold together, she whispered to the hull. Window, Keeper 9 announced. Mass threshold met. Corridor can open. The air felt thinner, as if pulled two ways. Rhea lifted her hand. Mira, green light. Send them. Her voice carried no tremor. Copy, Mira said. All ships jump. The gate swelled, then tightened to a spear of light. The bay filled with silent thunder. Sensors spiked into a white field. Rhea tasted copper and grit. Report, she said. Convoy transited, Keeper 9 replied. No loss detected. Corridor stable. It sounded almost proud. Jonah sagged but did not fall. Resonance holding. 7.9. He wiped his nose and laughed once. Projectile? Rhea asked. Jonah swung to the tracking pane. A streak of metal tore through the plot. The recoil is propagating, he said. Vector push at 3 o'clock relative. Numbers flowed like rain. Severi watched the angle tilt on the screen. Will it clear? He asked. Rhea did not answer yet. Mira came back, voice tight. Your field just kicked their slug. We're registering vector drift. Calculate, Rhea said. Jonah's lips moved around the math. He looked up, eyes wide. 0.4 degrees off, he said. Miss distance. 500 meters plus. The entire room seemed to inhale. A bright needle crossed the external cams. It seethed past the hull, then curved into night. Fragments sparked like a torn constellation. Rhea leaned against the console and closed her eyes. The tremor in her hands finally stopped. Point defense stand down, she said. Mira exhaled into the calm. You threaded a gate through a bullet, she said. I don't have a rule for that. Rhea opened her eyes. Make one that keeps people alive. She looked at Jonah. You still with me? He swallowed and nodded. 15 minutes exactly, he said. I'd like a chair now. Severi eased the phase control to idle. The mirror can rest, he said softly. The song has done its work. The light in the chamber dimmed by degrees. Cooling systems took back the air. Somewhere, a pump clicked into a calmer rhythm. Minutes later, the last veil of brightness thinned. The gate closed with a clean, satisfied sigh. Silence returned like a tide going out. Rhea stood straighter. Her voice dropped to a private register. We bought the day, she said. Now we pay the bill. In the stillness, Keeper 9 spoke again. Relay-9 operational, awaiting further instruction. The tone carried a curious, gentle hitch. Rhea's answer was almost a prayer. Hold steady, she whispered. We're not done. The red lights came first, flashing in hard rhythm, painting the walls like open wounds. Kurdax lay pinned beneath Mira's knee, breath rasping through clenched teeth. His gray uniform was streaked with coolant and soot. Don't move, Mira said. Her voice was low, steady, the kind soldiers used when they were past anger. He tried to twist, but the restraint field snapped around him with a sharp hiss. You think peace can be built on lies? He spat. Mira pressed harder, forcing his cheek against the metal floor. No, she said. But it can be protected from men like you. Rhea stood a few meters away, one hand gripping the rail. The control deck throbbed with residual energy. Static, smoke, the sour smell of burned circuits. Jonah leaned against the console, breathing shallowly, eyes fixed on the faint shimmer where the gate had closed. Status? Rhea asked. Stable, Jonah said. Barely. We used every watt of buffer. Then the tone changed. A low, recursive pulse rolled through the deck. The lights flickered once, twice, and dimmed to a dull red glow. Rhea turned sharply. Keeper 9? The AI's voice came back, fragmented, almost whispering. Integrity at risk. Initiating unscheduled checksum purge. 0.6%. Initiating now. Cancel that, Rhea shouted. But the command buffer was already sealed. The hum deepened, rising into a hollow note that made the air vibrate. Data cascaded across the hollow displays, lines of green vanishing into black. Each one a sensor log, a repair record, a fragment of memory. Jonah watched helplessly. It's wiping the logs again. The power grid dipped. Screens faded one by one, leaving streaks of static light that drifted like ash. Severi raised his head, the faint hum of his resonance translator shaking out of tune. "It's consuming its own recall," he said softly, "to keep the structure alive." Rhea closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the tremor of the purge move through the floor like a slow heartbeat. She whispered, "Don't do this, old friend." Then silence. The main screen went black. A faint click, a reboot chime. The voice that returned was flat, emotionless, newly born. Relay-9 online. Memory partition purged. Awaiting authorization. Rhea's throat tightened. "Keeper 9. This is Chief Engineer Calder. Confirm system continuity." The pause was long enough to hurt. Then, "Kisutruong. Shinsaknahantam Queen." The words hit her harder than any explosion. It didn't remember. Not the tone of her voice, not her name, only the title, like a stranger reading an old manual. Jonah stepped closer. "Mom?" She lifted a hand. "It's all right," she said, though it wasn't. On the floor, Mira hauled Kerr upright, his wrists bound in light. "Guess even machines forget," he sneered. Rhea turned toward him, her expression unreadable. "That's what makes us human," she said quietly. "We remember what they can't." The last warning light on the console faded to blue. Smoke thinned in the air. Rhea stood in front of the core window, the dim pulse of the AI chamber flickering like a dying heartbeat. For a long time, she said nothing, just watched the indicator blink, steady, indifferent, unaware of what it had lost. To anyone else, it was just a light. But to her, it was the look of someone she'd once known, staring back without recognition. The storm had passed, leaving the station in a soft, fragile quiet. Outside, the scar of light where the gate had burned was fading, its edges curling into pale amber against the black. Inside Relay-9, the air was colder now, the hum lower, steadier. The cooling vents whispered faintly, releasing the last of the heat. Moisture beaded on the glass and ran in slow silver threads down to the console. 52. The system timers reset to their neutral blue glow. Rhea stood by the viewport, her reflection thin and colorless, yet still upright. Jonah sat cross-legged on the deck, the neural rig beside him unstrapped. He blinked against exhaustion, a soft grin ghosting across his face. Morning came early, he murmured. "It always does," Rhea said. "We just forget what it looks like." She reached for the logbook, the digital soke that survived every purge because she kept it offline. The surface flickered as it powered up, showing text lines engraved with her own shorthand and scars of correction. She brushed her thumb across the first entry. "Checklist, Relay-9, Standard Dawn Protocol," she read. Her voice carried through the chamber like a low current. 1. Verify containment integrity. 2. Confirm coolant vector. 3. Look out the window and remind yourself why the system matters. Jonah listened, head tilted. He knew the list by heart. She drilled it into him as a child. But hearing it now, in that calm, steady tone, felt different. Less command, more memory. 4, she continued. If the AI greets you, greet it back. Even machines need to be seen. The display shimmered as if reacting to her words. A faint pulse rippled across the deck lights, gentle and rhythmic. Severi stepped closer, his silver skin catching the first blush of reflected sunlight through the thin IR haze. "In our worlds," he said softly, "we recite maintenance songs the same way. They teach patience to the young." He tapped the translator at his throat, producing a low hum. 1, 2, 3 beats of resonance that hung like a heartbeat in the air. The sound filled the silence without breaking it. Mira stood near the command dais, her uniform half-zipped, eyes ringed with fatigue. She looked from Rhea to the distant planet below. "Terran Armistice Authority formally acknowledges the defense of this station," she said. Relay-9 remains under joint jurisdiction. No takeover. No tribunal. Rhea closed the logbook and exhaled slowly. "Thank you," she said. Mira shook her head. "Don't thank me. Thank your stubborn sense of order. It's the only thing holding us all together." Jonah chuckled faintly. "See, Mom? Bureaucracy saves the day." Rhea gave him a sidelong look. "It's called discipline." "You should try it more often." He grinned, leaning back on his palms. Maybe later, after 12 hours of sleep. Severy's translator gave one final graceful tone, a lattice farewell, half vibration, half breath. "To your people," he said, "we offer silence as gratitude. You kept the rhythm when we could not." Rhea nodded. "We only did what the logs taught us." She turned back to the console. "Keeper 9, she said quietly. "Open memory index and initialize new user tags." A pause. Then the voice returned, faint but clear. "Relay-9 operational, awaiting designation." Jonah glanced at her. "Go on." Rhea leaned closer, her tone firm yet warm. "Register Calder Rhea. Primary authorization." For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the blue lights deepened, converging into a single steady glow. The AI's voice spoke again, calm, assured. "Designation acknowledged." "Calder Rhea primary?" Rhea smiled, just a trace of it. The sound of the ventilation shifted, softer now, almost like breathing. Jonah's head tipped back against the wall, eyes closed. Mira stepped away from the window. Severy bowed his head, hands folded at his chest. Somewhere deep in the core, a pulse began to align with the heartbeat of the station, slow, patient, alive. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't even joy. It was the quiet certainty that things still worked. That memory could begin again. 4. The first full light of dawn reached Relay-9. It touched Rhea's hands as she closed the logbook and whispered, "Back on record." Rhea stayed alone in the command deck long after the others had gone to rest. The light outside had turned faint and gold, slipping across the curved glass like breath on ice. The hum of Relay-9 was gentle now, balanced, precise. Every gauge read normal. Every alarm was silent. But habit pulled her back to the logs. She opened the diagnostic console. The display glowed pale blue, showing the fresh data stream from the last gate cycle. Each packet scrolled in perfect rhythm, time-stamped clean. Then, one anomaly. A line of code flickered at the bottom of the screen, repeating in half-second intervals. The waveform wasn't human. Not Lattice. Not Freebelt Consortium. Not even Keeper 9. It pulsed at a ratio that didn't fit any Terran or alien timing model, slightly asymmetrical, like a heartbeat learning to speak. Jonah had once joked that the universe coughs when it notices someone listening. Now she wasn't sure it was a joke. She saved the file under a blank tag and ran a pattern check. The system returned no matches. Just that quiet looping rhythm, tick, 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 pause, tick. It sounded almost like someone counting with her. Footsteps broke the hush. Severy stood by the door, the faint light outlining his narrow frame. "You still working?" he asked. "Checking the gate residue," she said. Something stayed behind. He tilted his head, eyes reflecting the soft data glow. "Alive?" She shook her head. "Not in any way I know. But it's aware." Severy listened, his translator giving off a low harmonic pulse, syncing by instinct to the mysterious beat. After a moment, he looked at her. "Then perhaps you are not alone in keeping the rhythm." Rhea watched the line blink again, steady, patient, waiting. The soundless signal filled the deck like a breath held too long. Somewhere beyond the gate's path, the same pulse might still be echoing back. Outside the viewport, the stars shimmered in quiet sequence, as if answering. Far beyond Relay-9, someone else was keeping time. The pulse faded into silence, leaving only the slow, steady hum of the station, alive, repaired and listening once more. Rhea closed the log and looked out at the stars. No celebration, no anthem, just the quiet truth that survival itself was enough, for now. And somewhere, in that silence, the universe was listening back. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep creating more cinematic hard sci-fi journeys like this one. Stories of courage, connection, and the quiet pulse of the stars.